Welcome to another Demarcation Media LEGO review. You guys probably have noticed I haven't done a ton of LEGO reviews lately. They're just not something that does real well on this channel. There's a lot of LEGO reviewers out there, so it's kind of a glut of LEGO-related review content. However, this set is not something that I could let slip by without me making a video, because this right here is literally like, if I had to say there is my number one LEGO set of all time, this is it right here. This is the LEGO Icons Rivendell set, and this is a huge deal for multiple reasons. First of all, this marks the return of the LEGO Lord of the Rings line, like a real return. It may not be, like a full relaunch of the line, but it is the return of minifigure scale Lord of the Rings stuff. And this is not something we ever saw in the original line, not to this degree. There's some new figures that we never saw before. There's new pieces in here. There's new building techniques. This is just an absolute monster of a set. So, I'm gonna try and keep this video as concise as possible. See if I can keep this rolling along. But in case you guys didn't know, I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, so I may ramble. We'll see. But here's the box. It is so big that I can't really fit it in my studio, and I think it looks really good. I do feel like the Icons design hurts it a little bit, because this is a huge missed opportunity to have that like beautiful misty mountains and like valley and whatnot art in the background. That would have been so amazing. But as it is, it's pretty cool. It's kind of, you get to see exactly what you're getting, and it doesn't blow the set out of proportion. I'm gonna have to take my camera off its stand because this thing is so big. 6,167 pieces. This box is huge. Oh, I'm catching on my tripod. Come on. Up on the top, there's all the minifigures. It's so bright. There we go. All the minifigures. I'm not going to focus on the box too much, but just wanted to show off some of it. There's like some art on the inside. We'll see that again later. And then all the features around the back. Very cool. So let's take a quick look at the instructions. So here are the instruction books and also the sticker sheets. So despite this being a massive set, we still do have stickers, which is both a bummer in some ways and also not a bummer. But yeah, this is the two sticker sheets we get. Not terrible, but there are some pretty large ones. And then the instructions are very minimalist, but it's really cool because it's like a blueprint, and then the section that you'll be building is highlighted. I did notice there was a few minor mistakes in the instructions, but I can't remember which pages they were on, so I can't really point them out. But there's some nice art of Rivendell in here. Get to see all the designers. Get to see all the Lord of the Rings sets. I've got Mines of Moria, and my brother's got this one, but that's about all we've got. And then there's also like little bits of input throughout. So sometimes I have to find one right here. So it'll be kind of remarks from the designers, which is pretty cool. It looks very neat. There's a different leaf icon for each instruction. Overall, really nice, very classy looking. And honestly, putting one of these on display would look super neat. And here is the full set. This thing is absolutely huge. Huge. And just packed to the brim with everything. Insane building techniques, detail on every surface, Easter eggs, places to put the minifigures, references to the story, like both the movies and the books. It's insane. So what we're going to do is we are going to go section by section, because we have the three sections. So we have the tower, the middle, and the forge area. So I just kind of want to work my way this way, I think. And then we will look at the minifigures afterward because there are a lot of them. So let's go ahead and jump into this section. So here is our first section, and this is kind of, it's a mix between the entrance of Rivendell, the forge of Rivendell, and Arwen's pavilion. And the whole set isn't an exact layout compared to like the movie. You'll see this bridge kind of at the edge of Rivendell. This part's deeper in. This part's also near the edge. But Lego put it all to one big kind of condensed setup to make sure that they could fit all of the iconic sections of Rivendell. And to me, I think that was a great choice. I know the layout isn't technically accurate, but I would much prefer to be able to get all of this stuff instead of them trying to make it accurate and just making, say, like the council area. So what we have is we've got some trees. We've got this bit of forest section, which I kind of thought of this as like, it looks like fallen pine needles almost, this color. So like a bunch of fallen pine needles. And then we have the trees, which look really nice. This is like pale green and gold leaves actually. And then this one over here is kind of a fall look. There's a mix of greens and fall colors, which is super cool. Very tall. From the back, it's not looking too bad. You do see the anti-studs, but they've got little branches sticking out. Same over here. But what caught my eye the most was the little shelf mushrooms growing out the side. And oh my gosh, I'm exploding stuff. Literally, this piece is just stuck between the studs, which I thought was kind of an illegal building technique. But Lego officially did it here. So we got 2 shelf mushrooms, some on the other tree. And that really just was like, wow. Like, that's a really cool building technique. And also, these are like Technic pegged in, so they can kind of just lift out like so. Pop them back on. There's roots everywhere. These mushrooms are glow in the dark on the base, which is super neat. There's tons of these new fern pieces. The stairs here are done so well. Like, this is absolute genius. This is just a normal flat stud thing, but this is like side stud construction. Then it's all like smoothed off up here. We have the perfect shaping of the rocks. Everything fits in so well. We have the bridge, which is very iconic and has studs for you to put figures on. And the great thing about this is we see this in the Hobbit as well. So if you have any of the figures from the Hobbit, you can put them there as well. There's a river here, which looks super nice. I love the rapids. And that angle is just so cool. The waterfall is translucent, which is a little odd. I think maybe they should have not made it fully translucent. Put something back there maybe. I don't know. But behind there we have like a little cave almost with more mushrooms and a frog, because Lego always puts their frogs. And then underneath we have a forge like storage area. So this lifts off and it's not stuck on by studs. It literally just sets in there by the way that this is all shaped. And then we have weapon racks in there with new weapons. So there's a new mold for Gimli's axe. You get 4 of those in this set. You also get 4 new elf swords. So let's give this to an elf actually. We've never gotten an elf sword before. We had like the elf spear, but this is an actual elven sword, which is super cool and also is super cool for people who like making their own custom medieval minifigures. This opens up a lot of possibilities there. Very neat. Love that. I was super excited to see all the weapon molds. And this just fits right in there by a jumper. And then on this side, we have a rack with a bow, an extra Boromir's sword, and another extra axe. That also just sets back in there. And then around there, we have a little grindstone, and then some, I guess it's a clip, so you can put a sword or something there, a lantern, and maybe a whetstone. Not sure. And then here we have the actual forge itself. There's no light brick or anything, but I think that's fine. I don't really know how they would have incorporated that. Lots of nice root work. Look at that. All the roots coming down. There's a little anvil, which is looking very nice. And then we have just, I guess the shovel is for scooping coal or whatever into the furnace. And then there's a little hammer in there. And then the doorway is shaped and sized perfectly for a minifigure. It's all pretty much exactly minifigure scale, and I love these little like sconces on the outside. That is super cool, and I feel like this section in of itself could be its own set. Like, I would 100% buy this, and I would be happy with this if this was its own set. But it's only a third. And also, I want to point out, look at the angle here. We have like a square, and then this is straight up angled in there, which is just amazing. The Lego designers behind this did such a good job. But that is not all there is to this section. We also have the pavilion. So this is the pavilion we see Arwen in the film. And the little inputs for the instructions said that this was the most difficult piece of geometry for the entire build. And it's essentially a perfect circle. And there's this hugely complex system underneath to make sure that the pillars line up where they should and to make sure that it's all round the way it should be. And then the top part is just insane. There's a mixture of like these magic pieces and then the skeleton arms and then the life preservers and then the long like claw pieces that all perfectly form this pavilion. And it's very recognizable. Like, it has the look of elven architecture. It's a little difficult to like get these things all lined up while you're building, but once you do, it looks absolutely brilliant. And then on the inside, we have Arwen's little bed thing that she is reading on when Elrond comes to talk to her. Also, look at this. The arches are made with these little tooth pieces. So cool. And then the bed is just attached on by that little clear thing. So you could kind of angle it too if you wanted. Add a little bit more life that way. Or you could just straight up remove it and just have a space for minifigures to stand. And then, like I said, this just kind of sets on. And this is where it gets really cool to me, because this little step here is made to perfectly line up and complete the stairs going down. And it's just brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. I absolutely love it. And like I said, if this were its own set by itself, then I would buy it and I would be totally happy with it because this is awesome. But it's not the whole set. It is only a third. So let's move to the next section. So here is the middle section, and this is by far the largest section. This is the centerpiece of the whole set, and there's a lot going on here. However, the first thing I wanted to focus on is my set. You can see down here, there's this little root sticking out, and then there's an empty hole. It was supposed to have one of these pieces that kind of caps the end, and instead of having that, they have an extra one of these that was in the wrong bag and never got used. So it was missing a piece and it got swapped out for this, which is kind of frustrating. You know, when you buy a $500 Lego set, you don't want to see weird little errors like this, but it's a simple fix. You know, just contact customer service and hopefully they can replace it. It was just weird. But okay, so that aside, there's so much going on. First of all, the roof. I wanted to talk about the roof first because this is like the scary part of this set. The ridiculous amount of just one by one tiles. And it's really not that hard. You can run a plate in between them to line it up, or that's what the instructions suggest, you know, just sticking a plate long ways, running it through there, straightening it up. Then I saw from Solid Bricks, he did a review of this, and he did the brick separator to straighten things up, and that worked out pretty well. So that's what I did, and it really wasn't too bad. It was a little tedious, but it wasn't terrible. Then we have the same roof on this little pavilion, and this little pavilion impressed me a lot because it's set at an angle from the rest of the build. So it was a very interesting construction, fitting it in like that. Which is super cool. And then the walkway is a little blocked in there by a table full of Lembas, which we never saw Lembas in Rivendell. At least in the films, I don't think we saw that. But it makes sense that they would have some because, you know, it's an elf thing. We have a little bench back here, little stairs going down. I love how pretty much this entire set, there's no leaps in imagination that you have to make to get characters from one room to the next. There's stairs everywhere, and we have the little bench here, little tiny tree. This tree up here, which is very, very, very tall and looks very interesting. It looks almost specially cultivated because a lot of times trees don't look that way unless they're pruned. And then we have on this side a little, looks like kind of a bird sort of decoration. And then just a little tower just to keep things from getting too monotonous up here. And then around the back, there's not a ton of walk space here. I think it was in Jang's review, he said 1 stud more would have been nice. I feel like even 2 studs more would have been nice, but at the same time, there's already so much in this set that it feels like maybe asking for a bit much. But we have the Shards of Narsil here, which is super cool, very iconic. It's being held by this elf statue, which not quite how it was in the film, but it works out pretty well. And here's the piece. I was shocked when LEGO actually made a piece for the broken sword. Unfortunately, they did not also make a piece for the reforged one, which I think is a missed opportunity. However, if, I'll just set that there for now. If the rumors about the Sauron's Tower set is true, maybe we'll see a reforged one there. I don't know. But we have some pictures here. This is the city of Gondolin. I believe Elrond was raised there. And then over here we have Eärendil, the mariner. I believe that's what this boat is. Frodo has Eärendil's light in his little thing from Galadriel. And this is like before he goes and turns into a star, basically. Very kind of buried Tolkien lore there for those of you who may not be like super hardcore Lord of the Rings fans. And then down in here, the floor is super cool. Like all of that is printed pieces. It's all very tiled, looks super, super neat. And it's just really cool to put figures in there, display them walking around, all of that. It just feels real. It feels like a real building. And then there's all these little removable like map sections and stuff. I don't honestly know what a lot of these are. I've studied this one for the longest time. It might be a little hard to see, but I thought it was maybe the breaking of the fellowship, but I don't think it is, so I'm really not sure what that's supposed to represent. I stared at it for so long. And then back in here is, let me see if I can get it out. Maybe I'll just remove the tile. This is a map of Middle-earth that is very incorrect. Rivendell is up here. Minas Tirith is down here, and then the 2 towers are right next to each other, which is wrong. That's a little odd. So that map maker is clearly not very experienced. And then there's one more around here, which this is brilliant, by the way. The side here, this is a side that connects to the other last section, but the archway is fully finished. We have a picture here. I took this to be the forging of Narsil, but the more I've watched other reviews, people said that was the forging of the rings. So that's possible. It's possible that's the forging of the rings. And then in there is just a little map of Mordor, just Mount Doom. And I can't really get it out. It's a little bit of a pain. But it's Mount Doom, the tower, and looks like the path of maybe Frodo and Sam. And then there's this big, like, I don't even know what you would call that. It almost looks like a giant menorah, but basically it's a candle stand. Huge, ornate candle stand. Up here, there's a little bit of a walkway here. This is the only part that you have to kind of make a jump in your imagination, because there's a walkway here, and then the other section connects, and there's no way to get from the other room to this walkway to the stairs. So that was my only gripe there. Then you can see the roof. The roof really is not meant to be removed. Like, once you get the roof on, you don't remove it. There's not really any need to, because you can get in there decently well. I mean, you kind of got to finagle a bit if you want to place figures, but it's not terrible. And then, of course, the iconic Council of the Ring area. Lots of nice shaping here. Very organic. It's like studs on the side. Tons of these new fern pieces. Tons of the dark green. You can see fallen leaves here, which I think is a really nice touch. It adds a lot of life. Then kind of the arched bridge area. We saw the little pavilion. I did not point out underneath the pavilion, you got some decoration with like birds and a little statue. And then you can see the ring on the pedestal. That's actually made using the shulker shell pieces. And then there's all of the recolored popsicles and hot dogs for all the chairs, which I'll show you kind of how the figures look there later. But we got Elrond's chair, and then the whole section just lifts off like this. And then underneath there is a little build of the Eye of Sauron, and now you can kind of see the backing more clearly. Very ornate, kind of matches the pavilion that we saw in the last section. And then we've got some interesting use of parts like these cupcake pieces, and you can see some more like candles and stuff. And then there's some strange stargazing equipment. And then I really like just looking through this angle so you can see the stairs. That looks super neat to me. Just makes me feel like I'm actually there. And then there's a banner over there. I thought that was the banner that Arwen made for Aragorn, but I don't think so. I think that one was black. So let's slide that off to the side for a second. And then this could be a set by itself. This right here. This could totally be its own set, just like that. We've got more printed pieces. And then I really love the way the tree is. Like, you can kind of look through it, the ring, look through the leaves. I like how there's a mixture of the fall leaves and the green leaves. It's just kind of a nice reminder that Rivendell was kind of in its end of life stage when we see it in Lord of the Rings. So fall was coming. The tree is pretty nice, shaped pretty nice. It's a little square, but we've got like a little knot hole here. All the roots coming down. I really like the way they did this. Pretty cool. It just looks really nice, and like I said, it just kind of adds more life to the whole scene. We got a little bit of that rocky ground there, and then again, same as the pavilion, this does not actually like fit on by studs. This literally just sits there like that. I feel like I could go on for longer about this section, but essentially, all you need to know is that it is a masterpiece. Just the designers went above and beyond what they had to do for this, and it captures every aspect of what it needs to be perfectly. And it's given me the terrible idea of, what if I bought two and built them backwards so that I could have an entire building? Unfortunately, and fortunately, I don't have that much disposable income, and I cannot buy two. So that's probably good because I also don't have the space for two. So here is the last section, and this is like a big tower and then the other section of the main building. And this incorporates a lot of that scene where Frodo wakes up. This is the room that he wakes up in, but then it also kind of mixes it with Bilbo's room, though I don't think those were the same room in the movie. But I think that works out. I think it makes sense, and it works out pretty well overall. So this tower will end up, as you saw, right next to the council area, whereas that doesn't really happen in the film. That's not really where that's set up. But again, it's kind of all compacted down, and it's all got the architecture and the feel of Rivendell. So I think the layout is a little less important. There is a random little hidey hole under here. You can stick Sam in so that he can hide and listen to the council. It also feels like a little bit of a reference to me to the beginning of Lord of the Rings when they're hiding in that hollow under a tree away from the ring wraiths, but that could just be me reading into it. And then there's a bunch of these statues, and these statues have dual-sided faces. There's like a slightly angry version and a slightly smiling version. They all have the same torso, all have the same head, and then there's two different hairs. And there's quite a bit of them there. The shaping of the tower is brilliant. It's like perfectly smooth. And actually, let me get my camera off the tripod again. See, this set is just, there's so much to look at that keeping it on the tripod just doesn't really work out. So we've got the windows here. Really nice shaping here. Then the tower, which is really nice. I love the way that this is done. This is all like fitting together so perfectly. The little arches, the little point at the top. You could fit a figure in there if you wanted to pull this piece off and then like stand him in there, because there is kind of standing room. And then down here on the floor level, you can see this room. There's plenty of walking space in there, and there's another one of those little couches on kind of a rug. There's a support pillar here, another candle holder, and then there's a bookshelf. Now, the part that I was a little bummed with about this section is that underneath and behind the bookshelf, there is actually, there's actually a whole hollow section there. So they really could have pushed the bookshelf back and allowed that to be more room for your figures to be in. That's really my only gripe with this section. I thought was maybe a little bit of wasted opportunity, or maybe have this enter a little cavern, something to utilize that space. Instead, the tower is just kind of hollow in the lower section and nothing is done with it. But maybe they just didn't have the budget for it, because this set, for what its cost, like the total cost is really quite reasonable. But we'll talk about that more later. We have the bed. Now, to get into here more easily, you can remove the tower. That is actually attached by studs. And then you can kind of see the construction of the tower a little better. And then it lets light in here. There is Bilbo's book. Unfortunately, they did it in a brown piece, where it's called the Red Book in the Lord of the Rings book. So I think a dark red one would have worked better. But yeah, it says there and back again. And then the cover, if I can flip it, the cover has the decorations. It's really hard to see from here, but it's not red. So that's kind of a bummer. But there's a little inkwell. There's a little like candle thing on both sides. Bilbo's chair. And then in here is a chest. If I can get it out. Inside the chest is some recognizable bits. Mithril coat, which is a sticker. Unfortunately, it would have been nice if that was printed. Or honestly, ideally, the most ideal situation would have been a torso, a mithril coat torso. I would have lost my mind over that. But as it is, it's a nice little reference to that scene. And then we have the updated Sting piece, which I wasn't totally sure about compared to the original one, but it's grown on me. I'm going to do a full comparison on all the figures eventually, so I'll talk more about that there. But that's pretty cool. You can just kind of stick that up there against the wall or against the little banister. And then the bed here. Now, I believe... Okay, never mind. I can't take this roof off. So this roof is just as stuck as the other one. But yeah, it's a little hard to see, but there's like carved elf holding, I don't know, the hanging drapes back there. And then around the back, this is a continued walkway section from the big middle section we just looked at. And then we have the mural of Sauron getting the ring cut off his hand by the shards of Narsil, which looks pretty cool and makes me sad that, number one, we don't have a minifigure of Gondor armor at all, regardless of who it is. And we don't have Sauron, and he was planned for Dimensions, and they never made him. Hopefully the Dark Tower rumor is true, and we will get him, and then King Aragorn. And then from this side, these arches... Well, first of all, let me put this back. Yeah, there we go. It's on there. These arches are just so satisfying to build. The way they fit together is just perfection, absolute perfection. And they look great. They're scaled to the minifigures. And then we got these little steps here. Like I was saying, you don't really have to make jumps in your imagination to have your characters move through the whole scene. So that's really nice. Then we have like a little access point here. You can kind of pose figures in there. This section, I feel like, doesn't stand alone as its own thing as well, but that's really because it's an extension of the other one. Also, I thought it would be kind of cool, like, what if you use this as a bookend? So you have this and then the bigger section and just kind of put your whole set of Lord of the Rings books and then the Hobbit in there. I think that would be kind of cool. But let me attach this to the middle section again, and I can show you what I meant by, like, having to make a little bit of a jump to travel to this area. Okay, so here's what I mean. So we've got the stairs over here, right? So Bilbo comes up the stairs. He wants to go right in his room, okay? So he can come across here, walk his merry way over here, and then what? There's nowhere for him to, like, he could jump from here, but he's an old hobbit. He can't really jump anymore. And he could, like, shimmy around the outside and get in, or he could just, like, split the building and like shimmy around this way and then get in. But yeah, that's the only part where I'm like, that's a little bit of a bummer. I don't honestly know what they could have done here instead. I'm really like racking my brains. I can't think unless they just did a little walkway across to here, which honestly, that might have been neat. Just like a little walkway across. That would have been kind of cool. But, you know, that might have also jacked the price up more because of more parts. So I don't know. That was the only part that kind of bothered me a little bit. I don't think it's terrible, but it is just a little bit annoying that poor Bilbo has to do some gymnastics just to get into his room and write a little bit. Also, while I'm here, this is what I meant, like bookends. So you could just like slide your books in there like that. I think that would be actually kind of sick if I had enough space to do that. And then these attach just by Technic pins, so they don't really click together. It's just you have the star ends on here, and so this fits like so, and then you can kind of shift it as a unit, but not really. As soon as you pick it up, that will fall apart, which I think it's fine because the sections by themselves are pretty darn easy to move, so I think that's okay. And then you can see in here the archway through to the other side with the whole thing attached. Very big. And then let me stick just Bilbo in there for size. I do think somebody's probably going to create a lighting kit for this that's going to make this look so much cooler, but it's a little dark in there for now. Oh yeah, and then here's the mirrored little bird from the other side. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at the minifigures because there is a lot of those. Like I said, I would love to be able to do a comparison between some of the new figures and the old figures. I do have the majority of the older versions of the Fellowship, so I'll save a super in-depth for another video, but I did want to obviously get a closer look at the figures. So we have the 5 Hobbits here, and this is the figure that stands out the most to me right away, just because we've never gotten old Bilbo before, and it's really nice to finally get him in minifigure form. He looks pretty good overall. His little waistcoat is very accurate. I think his face is really good. He's finally got feet. All of the Hobbits have feet. Finally, I've been wishing for this for so long. Lego Hobbits, I think, have hit their peak now. They have their dual molded feet, and that's just perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm not totally sold on the hair that they're using for Bilbo. I don't really know why. I just feel like maybe it's a little too slicked back. But what I am sold on is the terrifying gimme the ring face that Lego added. Like, that was an absolutely terrifying scene the first time I watched Fellowship of the Ring, where he's just like, ah! So that is a very nice inclusion. Only thing I'm not sold on is the Doc Brown hair for him. And then we have Frodo, who is looking fairly similar to how we saw him before. His waistcoat has a little bit less like wrinkles and whatnot. It's a little bit more smooth. I don't know if it's necessarily less detailed than the old one, but it's a little bit more sharp maybe. And then he's got his green cape, of course, because he hasn't gotten the gray one yet from Galadriel. He has a new face where he's got kind of this happy smile. And then this is when the ring is calling to him, or when he was stabbed by the Morgul blade. Either way, that works. Perfect face there. And then we have Pippin. And this is where it starts getting really cool because Pippin only ever came in the Mines of Moria, so he was extremely difficult to get. So getting him again is great. He has got a new exclusive face where he's got this face on one side and then a worried face on the other. I almost thought it was a Harry Potter head, but no, it's new and exclusive. He's got his iconic scarf there. He's got suspenders, of course, the feet, and he's carrying a little thing of lembas bread on its little wrapping. He's got a brown cape, looking very nice, and then there's the back detail. You can see his scarf a little bit, and he's got brown hair like normal. And then, well, I was going to Sam next. Guys, stop knocking each other over. Sam makes his return, and this is Sam before they are like at Mordor. So the minifigure of Sam that we've gotten before, he had all of his stuff in Mordor. He didn't have his overcoat kind of thing. This time he does, so this is how he looks for the majority of the Fellowship of the Ring. And I think even a little after that. I really like this. I think it looks fantastic. I love the little suspenders. Again, I like the way that they've got his little coat and then his blue cape, because again, this is before Galadriel gave them the gray elven cloaks. He's got a face that I don't think this is an exclusive face. I could be wrong. I think they also used it in Harry Potter. But it looks pretty close to Sam, I would say. It looks pretty nice. The Hobbit hair, I've noticed, doesn't stick quite as well as the old ones did. Maybe the mold is getting old or something. But Sam comes with his frying pan, his trusty frying pan, that can be both a weapon and a way to make them some tomatoes and nice crispy bacon. And then we have Merry. Now, Merry and Sam originally had swapped hair colors. Merry had the darker hair, and Sam had the lighter hair. And when I saw the swap, I was not a fan of it. I was like, that's wrong. You know, obviously, it needs to be the other way around. Pippin, stand up. Like this. This is kind of what I'm used to, because that's how the 2012 ones were. But upon checking the source material again, this is more accurate to the on-screen characters. So I'm kind of on board with the switch now. Merry's eyebrows are a little darker than his hair, but I think that's okay. This, I believe, is one of... I'm not a Harry Potter person, so I've forgotten the name. One of the Weasleys. I think this is one of the Weasleys' faces, but it works for Merry pretty well, I'd say. He's got a very boisterous like smile, or maybe he's singing, and then he's got kind of his smirk there. No angry face. I love the fact that he has the carrot and it's broken in half. That's a nice little pointing back to the shortcut to mushrooms part in the movie where he falls down the hills like he thinks he broke something and he pulls out a broken carrot. I think that's hilarious. When the light hits his waistcoat, you can kind of see there's like some nice texturing there, nice patterns. He's got his dark green overcoat and then his green cape. Overall, I'm very happy with these hobbits. We've got all of the main hobbits here, and they all have their feet. Finally, that was one of the things the old hobbits were missing, because hobbits are known for not wearing shoes ever. So this is fantastic. I figured it would make the most sense to kind of go according to height. So we are moving on to the dwarves next, and Lego has done something really cool here and differentiated the height of the hobbits from the height of the dwarves by utilizing the new medium legs, which means the dwarves can actually run and sit, whereas the old short legs could not. So that makes them just a little bit taller, which is perfect. Now we have Gimli here. Obviously, he's got his iconic helmet and armor. And then this dwarf is technically unnamed, but it is supposed to be Gimli's dad, Glóin, when he is old. We have kind of an official one. Well, not kind of. We do have an official one from the Hobbit line when he's younger, but this is like the old version, which is kind of cool. He is fairly generic overall. I mean, he does, like, his look checks out. He shares the same beard and hair as Gimli. Oh my gosh, his head doesn't want to come off. Come on, buddy. Oh my word. This beard, I believe, is new. The only thing I don't love about this figure is the reuse of the Tony Stark torso. This came in one of the Iron Man lab sets. I think it was the second one. That, I don't know about that. I mean, it's generic, and it's just like gray cloth and wrinkles and stuff, but it just doesn't have any dwarvish stuff. None of the big... I think maybe a big belt buckle or something would have helped. So no, I'm not sold on that. Face is pretty good. I'm pretty sure that's a Harry Potter face. And then we have this hairpiece, which I believe was for Dumbledore, but is also made to fit perfectly with this. So I was happy with this. I was happy with the inclusion of Glóin, especially since we have old Bilbo, and they were friends. So it's nice to have them be able to have conversation, because in the Fellowship of the Ring book, around the Council of Elrond, that was when Frodo met Glóin for the first time. So that was pretty cool. And then Gimli has been updated quite a bit. His beard is now a brighter red as opposed to the dark brown that we saw on the 2012 figure, but I think it works. I wasn't sold on it at first, but the more I've looked at it, the more it actually makes sense. We've got his axe, really fantastic piece. There's 4 of them in the set, so you can have Gimli dual wield and Glowin dual wield if you would like. There's a grip area right behind the head, as well as down here. He doesn't have his big axe, his like double-headed axe, but I think that's fine. I think this works out. And this is the axe that he uses to like, or one of the axes he uses to try and smash the ring. So you could do that. You obviously don't want to like actually break it, but yeah, pretty cool piece. I think a lot of people will have a lot of fun using this in their own like character creation. And then Gimli's helmet is a new piece, which I was surprised. I thought they would just bring back the original one, but no, they have raised the middle piece so you can see his eyes better. And then they have removed the molded sections on the back and instead replaced it with these copper prints, which I was a little bummed about, but overall I do like this helmet upgrade. The print is fantastic. And for the first time ever, you can have unhelmeted Gimli. Look at that. He uses the same hairpiece, but that's fine because that's basically what his hair looks like. So that's pretty cool. And then underneath we have a new John Rhys Davies head. Look at that. That's pretty cool. The eyebrows look a little crooked to me, and that's kind of an issue I've seen with a lot of the Rivendell sets. People will get them, and one or more of the characters will have ever so slightly shifted face prints. Like some aspect of it will be shifted. I don't think this looks bad. It's not really an eyesore. I just think Lego maybe needs to look at their calibration on their printing machines or something. The torso is brown now as opposed to the dark red, which that threw me as well, but I think it works. See, look, big dwarvish belt buckle. The dwarves were all about like the big shapes, the really angular stuff, and that's why I didn't think that this fully fit. And then around the back, we've got kind of his pack, which is nice, and the beard hangs down a little, but you can still kind of see that when he has his helmet on. See, like so. So I would say that these are 2 fantastic additions to the lineup, and it is great to see Lego actually getting a more accurate scaling for the different races. And I'm a huge fan of the dwarves, so this is just really cool to me. And now I really want Lego to do their own like fantasy era reboot or something so that I can just get a bunch of, generic dwarves. I think that would be awesome. Moving on to the race of men, we have Boromir and Aragorn. Now, for those of you who may not be super familiar with the lore behind Lord of the Rings, and you might be wondering, why isn't Gandalf here? Gandalf is not technically a man. He's like a spirit sort of thing from a different land. So I'm going to be looking at him separate. These guys, these are pretty exciting figures. So let's look at Boromir first. Boromir, for the longest time, has been a very rare and expensive character to get in Lego form because, again, he only appeared in Mines of Moria, just like Pippin. So these 2 were kind of together in how expensive they were. And Lego said, you know what? We're going to completely redo the figure. So the shield is now one of the smooth, like Captain America pieces, which I'm a little upset about. Well, not really upset. I just liked the old one with the stud as the boss in the center. But this is very nicely printed. Super fantastic. Looks very accurate. It's just very smooth. So that's my only real gripe with it. And then his sword is kind of short, but I think it's fitting. I looked up photos and stuff, and it's a little kind of chibi because, this is Lego form. But I like it. I like it a lot, and I think also this is super useful for just other medieval stuff. I doubt we'll see it come back, but I think it's fantastic. So, really happy to get 2 of them. Looks really nice. And then Boromir himself looks really good too. So, all of his printing has been updated. It looks really just fantastic. And his face has been updated as well. I wasn't sold on the face change, but it's pretty darn accurate. I like that kind of smirk. Kind of gets Boromir's cocky personality. down, and then he's got kind of a one does not simply walk into Mordor face. Then he's got his brown traveling cloak print on the back. My camera keeps making things really bright today for some reason. I don't know why. Now, the only thing that the only thing that I noticed that's kind of an oddity here is how thick his face print is. And Aragorn's kind of matches, but Elrond, when you compare the two, Elrond's face print is kind of thin, whereas Boromir's is kind of thicker and more blocky. I don't know. It's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just kind of seems like two different styles. And then we have Aragorn, and this is not his ranger / traveling clothes. This is like, I think we only ever see him wearing this in Rivendell. He's got like this brown, more stay-at-home cloak, if you will. He's got like a gold robe underneath. The printing travels really nice. Looks really nice around the back. And he's got his new sword. This is the Ranger sword. And this one in particular is going to be so useful for like medieval mocks, castle mocks. There is 2 of them in this set. Looks so good. I really want a lot of these. Like, if I could get a whole ton of just these 2, that would be so good. But my feeling is that these are going to remain exclusive to this set, because it also comes with like Sting and the Shards of Narsil, because they come in all a pack. So I don't think we'll see a re-release. So these are going to be fairly special, at least for the time being. Aragorn's face looks fantastic. He's got kind of a mellow smile there. And then here is when he needs to beat down some orcs. I like that. It fits his personality well. And I don't know, it's just really well done. So these 2 figures, I would say, are top-notch. Very, very well done. And here we have the man himself, Gandalf the Grey. Now, this is a pretty exciting figure because he's been upgraded in a lot of ways. He's got the new dress piece to kind of simulate his long robes, and that is printed front and back, which is really cool. He's got his hood folded down, but you don't actually see that beneath his cape. The cape is the softer fabric, which is interesting because all the Hobbits and even Boromir's cloak was the harder kind, but this is like the new soft, floppy kind. I think that's because of the beard. It helps fit better. And then he's got his trusty staff, of course. Unfortunately, he doesn't have Glamdring. You could use either the extra Ranger sword or even one of the new great sword pieces that LEGO's been using for that if you wanted to. He's got like a little pouch. The only thing I don't like about the figure is the face. I believe that's another face from Harry Potter. There we go. And now you can see the torso print. But yeah, this face I don't think suits. It does not have big enough eyebrows. Gandalf is known in the books and even in the movie, or the movies, for having large eyebrows, and that's just not bushy enough. It's just not. That might seem like a really weird complaint, but in The Hobbit, when we first meet Gandalf, it specifically says that his eyebrows stuck out farther than the brim of his hat. You see the brim of this hat? You see how wide it is? You know how bushy his eyebrows gotta be. So that's my only complaint there. I will most likely swap that for the old Gandalf head. But he also has hair, which is pretty cool because in the past, we either would get Gandalf with his hair or Gandalf with his hat. I don't think we've ever gotten both at once, and that looks really good. Honestly, he looks better with this small eyebrow face with his hair than he does with the hat. And then you can do that if you want to. Very good minifigure. LEGO is really just kind of consistently getting quality with these. And the last race represented here are the Elves. Unless you count the frogs as their own separate race, in which case there's a frog behind the waterfall. But I'm not really counting him. We are looking at the Elves right now. So these are the 2 generic Elves that come in the set. And that's pretty cool because we haven't often gotten generic Elves. Like the Hobbit line had a decent amount of generic Elves, but the Lord of the Rings line originally had none. So this is cool. They both have the same torso. It's kind of like soft looking elven robes with the belt, and then The lady on this side has like this belt goes further down. There's print front and back on that. This guy doesn't have any print on his legs, sadly, but I think that's okay. And then there's this new hairpiece, which I think looks pretty cool. We have it in 3 colors? No, just 2. Dark brown and then like the light blonde. The ears are dual molded into it. So you can see the tan colored plastic in there. That's pretty cool. I like the way that it kind of hangs down the front. And this guy looks a little bit like one of the elves that reforged Narsil into Anduril, but there were 2 of them and they were both guys, and so this is not really that pair. These just Rivendell elves. And you can see this guy is holding the sword. I just didn't take it from him, so you can see it a little closer now. This guy is utilizing Shang-Chi's face, which I think is pretty good for an elf. I think that works out. He's angry, ready for a fight. This one I'm not sold on because she has freckles, and elves don't usually have freckles. It's not really a thing for them, but I'd say overall it's a pretty suitable head. And these are just generic unnamed elves, so I'm not going to nitpick on them too much. Then we have Legolas and Arwen. So I am going to nitpick a bit here. First of all, what the heck is happening with her eyes? I think the mouth is centered, but her eyes are like going off to the side. That's not really that good. That's what I'm talking about, where Legos just their printing is going a little bit weird. So that's not great. I'm actually probably going to contact customer service about that. And then she's got an angry face. It's not the best representation of Arwen, like facial features, because she doesn't really smile like this much. Like, she doesn't have that kind of a smile. But, I mean, it's not amazing for a face choice, but it's not horrible either. The rest of her print is pretty cool. She's got the even star around her neck, and then around the back, she's got just some dress print. But the face being misaligned is pretty bad. And then, speaking of faces, Legolas has some issues because, first of all, he never really has his hair like this. I mean, he kind of does, but it's more back than anything. So that throws the look of him. And then using the young Han Solo head, it's just not working for me personally. I mean, maybe some people will like this choice, but I just can't see Legolas. Like, the outfit is Legolas, but the face isn't Legolas. It looks like a dude cosplaying Legolas to me. So, not great on that. I would say the original elf hairpiece and the Hobbit version of the Legolas head would be the perfect combination. And I'll show that in my comparison video. But, yeah, that's not great. What is great, though, is the torso and legs. Particularly the legs, the dual molding. That's fantastic. And then the print on the torso is fantastic as well. Got the silver, like, vines and stuff. I think that's really good. And, of course, he's got his signature bow. The hair and the head isn't great. Just, no, not really. Oh, also, Arwen had this little book. And that is a printed piece from Harry Potter. And then last but not least, we have Elrond. And I would say that this is the definitive version of Elrond. The hair matches perfectly. I would say it's pretty much spot on. I feel like they designed it for him first. And then the torso and leg print is really nice. And he's got the skirt piece because he had long robes. The back of the skirt piece isn't printed, but you can see some more detailing. And he's got a second face. This one's where, welcome to Rivendell. And then this one is, we need to talk about this evil ring. Or when Gandalf starts speaking in the Mordor tongue and he's like, can you shut up? Like, we don't want that here. So I think that's perfect. Like I was saying, I do think there's a little bit of a discrepancy in the print style or the design style from certain figures. But overall, I would say that this guy is pretty much a perfect representation of Elrond. So we've got our council section. We've got all the council members. But not all of the council members here can sit. So we've got like Aragorn, right? Aragorn can sit in one of these chairs just fine. Okay? You know, he can sit down. Just got to make sure you don't misalign the chair, but it's all good. And then, thanks to the new short legs, Glowin can sit, and Gimli can sit, getting ready to hop up and smash stuff. This elf guy can, well, I don't know actually if he needs to sit in. There were some generic elves sitting there in the film, but maybe we won't do that. Legolas can sit. Boromir can sit. I actually haven't tried Boromir with his cape on. That might be a little difficult. Actually, no, you can just kind of put his cloak over the back. That's not bad. But we have a Hobbit that needs to sit, who can't sit. And we have a Gandalf who needs to sit, who also can't sit. And we have an Elrond who needs to sit and who can't sit. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get them to sit? And Lego, luckily, thought this through. I was not really thinking that they were going to think it through at first, but they have surprised me, and they have provided a solution in the form of brick-built legs for the characters that can't sit. So what we're going to do is we are going to remove this, and we have this printed piece for Gandalf, and now he has a sitting robe section. So, oh, Gimli, move your axe. The wizard needs to sit. And Gandalf's robe kind of gets right out of the way. And the same thing goes for Elrond. You have the same assembly with the print on the front that matches this almost perfectly. Do this, and then he can sit down. And it looks really good. And then for the Hobbits, you have sitting legs for both Bilbo and Frodo. Bilbo would have been on the council, but I don't think I have space for him. There's only limited seats. There's not quite as many as there should be. But for the Hobbits to sit, you have this little assembly here. Ta-da! Look at that. Very cool. The only thing here is that Frodo's pants are like dark brown, but then these are a lighter brown. It's not a huge issue. It's just a little bit of a discrepancy between the two. But that does allow him to sit on the council, and his robe just kind of folds in. And now we have the Council of Elrond convened. Bilbo really should be there. Actually, I'm kind of thinking that we should put Bilbo in there, because Bilbo was a huge part. He's the reason why the ring is out and about again. So where are his legs? There we go. Bilbo can sit. There we go. There we go. The Council of the Ring has been convened. And like I said, this by itself would be a set that I would buy. Like, that is super good. Just totally fantastic. And I love that they gave us solutions to allow the characters to sit down. And then the last thing I wanted to cover is just all the extras. So we get an extra Shards of Narsil. We get an extra Sting. We get an extra Ranger Sword. Well, this is not really technically an extra. It's supposed to go on the anvil on the forge section. But yeah, you get another one of those. And then you just get all kinds of stuff. Oh, here's one of Gimli's axes. You get like really interesting pieces like this. You get a tan hot dog. You get one of these big kind of bendy tube pieces. You get an extra ring. Wait a minute. Actually, there's extra... Okay, no, there's just one extra ring. You get this piece. You get some greens. Wait, no, I was wrong. There's two extra rings. Yeah, so there's a ton of stuff in here. Ton of really nice pieces. Ton of extras. Which makes sense. I mean, it is a huge set. But also, this is not supposed to be an extra. Like I said, this was a piece that was not supposed to be an extra one in this set, and they gave me the wrong one. But, yeah. Also, candle pieces. I will say, be careful when you are putting those in. I don't remember which one it is, but I jammed it in there the wrong way. It kind of started breaking the little attachment piece. So luckily there was an extra. But yeah, just be careful when you're putting those together. So pretty nice little bundle of extras. You know, getting extra ones of these swords is perfect. Extra sting, not so much because it's very iconic. So having an extra one isn't necessarily helpful. Although I guess you could use it for your own like medieval stuff if you wanted to. But yeah. Or you can just give it to Sam, let him go and fight a giant spider with it. Well, there you have it. That is the Lego Icons Lord of the Rings Rivendell set. Now, obviously, this is not the whole set. I just didn't bring back the entire thing because it doesn't fit in my studio. You guys saw that. And I need to make a thumbnail, and I usually make a thumbnail from the end of these clips here in the video, and it's too big for me to make a proper thumbnail out of. And I feel like this right here kind of encapsulates what the set is about, so that's why we've got this. I am blown away. This set is a literal masterwork of Lego design on all aspects. I mean, the only real downsides are some of the minifigure face choices, like Legolas. Legolas face and hair, not great, not good choice. Arwen, questionable. Bilbo's hair is, it's a little weird, and Glowin's torso is a little odd. But overall, it's really nice. Oh yeah, and Gandalf's face. Gandalf's face needs bigger eyebrows. But the rest of it, like the minifigure designs for Aragorn, Boromir, the Hobbits with the feet, Gimli, Elrond, all of them look so nice. And then the just entirety of the build is beautiful. Just top-notch work. Really, this set feels like the designers truly cared and that Lego themselves truly cared and gave them enough resources to make this set be for Lord of the Rings fans. I feel like lately a lot of times Lego will just like half-bake things because they know people will buy it. But this set is big and is very pointed towards a specific crowd, and they knew that they needed to hit all the right boxes. And I think they did. I feel like I can say that they did because I've been reading Lord of the Rings for years. I've read the books over and over so many times, watched the movies over and over. It's one of my all-time favorite stories. It's just so good. And this hits all of the boxes that I wanted them to hit for a Lord of the Rings set. It's essentially any Lord of the Rings fan's dream set. Now, I heard some people saying that they wished that this had been like a Helm's Deep set instead, like a big, huge Helm's Deep. And while that would be cool, Rivendell is really the only set that makes sense for getting all of the characters, because we have the entire Fellowship here, plus some of the other really important characters. And this is really the only place that they all came together before splitting up and heading out across Middle-earth on their various quests. So Rivendell, I think, makes total sense. It was where the fate of the ring was decided, and I think it was a great choice. So now let's talk about the price real quick. This is a $499 Lego set. Technically $500. It's 1 cent off because $499.99 sounds better than $500, I guess. But that's a steep price. However, for 6,167 pieces, this, based on Lego's weird prices lately, this should be at least $600, especially for a licensed set. So personally, I'm quite happy with the price. And the design that went into it, $500 feels like, it feels worth it. Like this Lego set, I feel like is the first one in a long while that I can go, that really feels worth the money, even though it's so expensive. But again, this is very pointed, so not everybody will want to buy this because not everybody will be a Lord of the Rings fan. Some people won't be able to afford it because it's a big set. And that's understandable. Like, this is quite a lot of money to put down at once. But I highly recommend this. If you are a fan of Lord of the Rings and you have a way to get this, highly recommend. You will not be disappointed. Or if you're just a Lego person or just somebody looking for a really nice build, this is one of the best, most interesting, most satisfying, and just mind-blowing builds that you will find in probably the whole of Lego's lineup right now, to be honest. That's my opinion. So I'm personally very happy with it, and this is literally my dream Lord of the Rings set. Number one set of all time. Like, if I had to get rid of all of my Lego sets and I could only keep one, this is the one that I would keep. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.